straight through the heart, I'm pretty sure.
Blue root.
That is a monster buck, buddy.
First one on camera, baby. Yeah.
Oh my god. I can't believe you made that shot.
I found it.
That is a big, big buck.
All right, welcome to Big Booner Deer Supply. If you're wondering what Big Booner Deer Supply is all about, we're all about providing content to the followers, to you guys, listeners out there, how to improve your deer hunting property. So some of you guys might recognize us from a social media platform, Hook to Hunt. We are still technically Hook to Hunt, but Big Booner Deer Supply is more going to be tailored around your whitetail hunting property. And we're going to bring you a lot of tips, tricks, a lot of back knowledge on how to develop your land and really progress your property forward to produce the healthiest herd and the biggest deer possible, and keep them on your property longer and give you a chance to actually harvest those big deer. So right now in the background here is my property. I purchased this property back in December, so I've owned it for what, a little over 6 months, probably 9 months maybe. But I've actually bow hunted this property for 5 years prior to purchasing it. It was one of those things that kind of got my foot in the door with the property owner, and when they were ready to sell it, I asked them for the first opportunity to purchase it. So, but now that we own it, or now that I own it, I'm really spending a lot of time developing this property. I've already done a lot of work to it, and there's a lot of planning and strategy behind what I did to it and what I'm going to continue to do to it. And that's what I hope to share with the audience here. And so hopefully you guys can take a lot away on exactly how to plan out your property. You need to do a lot of work on the front end. The more planning you do ahead of time, it's going to save you a lot more money and a lot more time down the road. But to kind of keep things moving along here, I'm just going to start showing you around the property and show you things that I've done and talk through them and show you things that I plan on doing going forward in the future and what you can expect. So right here is my upper food plot. This is on the far south corner of the property. So just remember that matters where you put your food plot at. And this is the closest one to, I would say, people and pressure. So as you can see right here is a horse pasture. I think I scared the horses away. There's 3 horses in here. On the other side of that little horse pasture there, where you see that yellow tractor, I got a barn and I got some other outbuildings over there. But right here is where I've been doing most of my work so far this year. This was once a horse pasture field years and years ago. Earlier this year, it was just filled with small trees. Some a little bit bigger, but mostly small trees that had to be cleared out, which is what this pile is right here. And I'll be burning that over the winter when there's snow on the ground. You can see all the tree tubes in here. This is also gonna turn into my more permanent refrigerator. And what I mean by that is I got chestnut trees, probably about 40 to 50 chestnut trees planted in these tubes. I got persimmon trees, I got Honeycrisp apple trees, and I got some peach trees. So 5 years from now, this thing will supply its own high quality food source with no work, basically, no maintenance on it. That is long-term plan. Short-term plan, I still want this ground and to be beneficial. So what I just did was planted, right before I started filming this video, because it's actually gonna be raining and started raining already, is getting this food plot into the ground. So I tilled it up first. I actually had to till this thing 3 times because it has all those roots and trees and everything in here. And then I planted snow peas. And I got another video that's coming out with that. Will probably come out after this one. This is more of my introductory, and kind of did things backwards filming it, but that one will come out after this one. But put down the snow peas after I disked this, and then drug that in, and then I just broadcast clover over the top of this probably 30 minutes ago, which is why I'm sweating, because it's like 90 degrees out with humidity right now. But it's August 9th. Still a good time to plant as long as you have a lot of rain in the forecast and you see those nighttime temperatures drop. Even if you have high temperatures of the day and you get those low nighttime temperatures, usually you have humidity, you have dew on the ground, and it really will help that clover seed live. So this whole top food plot here in another month will be a quality food source, and then especially going into late October and November. So what I did as far as these trees go is chestnuts are spreaded throughout, but magnet, persimmon trees, and some Honeycrisp trees, like I don't have as many of those in here. I have maybe a handful. I got those strategically planted on the outside corners. And those outside corners and those outside edges is where my tree stands are gonna be at. If the deer want the best quality food source or something special, right, they're gonna have to go to where and give me an opportunity to shoot those deer. And this is what we talk about, going back to strategy and having things well thought out. This whole middle section here, I don't really have any chestnut trees. I don't have any chestnut trees. I don't have trees in it at all. They are all planted, again, where they have to walk past me. And give me an opportunity to shoot them. All right, so as we walk over here, you can see that I left a layer of, probably should have did a little wider than that, but I got probably like 7-8 feet of grass. So I planted early this spring some RC switchgrass in here, RC big rock switchgrass, some grass that basically can grow 8 feet tall. But the RC's definitely started growing in this after I kind of tilled it up a little bit. And I'm gonna let that grow. Long term, I plan on planting trees or some sort of cedar in one strip in front of this grass going across here. Yes, I'm gonna give up a little bit of my food plot, but in the long run, it'll add a lot more screening and it'll make the deer feel a lot more comfortable about being out here all year long in this clover plot, or feeding off these trees, or maybe even using it as bedding in the spring. There's just too much exposure during the day. Older deer are probably not gonna come in here to feed. Although I will tell you that they are more comfortable with horses than they are cattle. They do feel comfortable next to the horses, but there's just, you can hear a guy mowing in the background. Older bucks don't like pressure. People might say, oh, the deer don't mind it when they talk about different things, or when they put up a blind and it's sitting out right in the open, they're like, oh, they'll get used to it. Well, guess what? A lot of the older bucks that survive and they got big for a reason. It's because they're smart. So if you really want an opportunity to shoot bigger deer, I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm not saying you can't, don't find one in the rut that's thinking with the wrong head. But if you want to increase your odds, that's what we're here talking about today. So the better you blend things in, the better screening you have, the less pressure you put on the older mature bucks, the better chances you have of shooting. Here's one of my peach trees here coming out of the tube. I planted that one a while ago. If you are gonna take the time to plant trees, at a bare minimum, you better tube them, because the deer will destroy them. Unless you're somewhere where there's no deer at all, then there's no point in probably planting trees for deer. But yeah, they will absolutely annihilate them. You're better off planting less trees and doing it right than planting more trees, because they will eat every one of them to the ground. I got a persimmon tree here on the edge. I did plant clover back through here. This is an old licking branch that I put up. And I'm not gonna lie, I did this one 5 years ago and I kind of threw it up quick. And I put that stand up there, and it was kind of before I knew the exact pattern of the deer in here and what they like to do. And they're probably, again, everything probably wasn't as well thought out as it could have been. I do know deer run from across the field over there and cut down this tree line, but they also put a solar field over there too, so they don't go this way as much either. So there's multiple reasons, but this is the worst one I've done. It still works. Deer is still, there used to be a scrape here before I tilled it up, but you can see how I got that paracord from tree to tree, and that branch is pretty exposed at the top. They'll use it, but it won't be as good as if you tie it off to maybe a bigger limb that's coming out, and it kind of links into a tree, which I'll show you a better video on a really good licking branch and how to do it correctly, and even pictures of some giant bucks that just came into it right away and nonstop using it all the way through the rut. So, but either way, licking branch, not the best one, but they're also nice to put up just in front of a trail camera to see what deer are coming onto your property. And you can put them in front of a stand too if you want them to stop and give yourself a better chance of taking a more well thought out shot than a shot when maybe a buck is just kind of cruising through and then you got to try to grunt stop them. Like I said, I thinned this tree line out, and I could have turned it into more of a food plot. I did plant some trees in here because I'm planning on thinning it out a little bit more. But the goal is to have this be a staging area. Most of these deer are going to come out of the pines, and they may come from that direction too. There's a big grass field over there through the timber there. But this is going to be a staging area. I got to move a tree stand. That tree stand I just showed you back there, I got to move it into here. And basically I'm going to have a stand in this timber where I'm kind of hidden back a little bit, hopefully where the deer aren't exactly traveling. I am very comfortable taking shots, shooting that deer at 30 yards, 40 yards ideally, 30 to 40. And I'll even shoot at 50 if I have the right setup and clearing. I practice at 70 something, and by the time it hits deer season, I should be pretty dialed in, and I have no problem in feeling comfortable with a longer shot. But ideally, I want to set up from where my tree stand is at to where the deer are traveling through 30 yards. I like to be a little farther away. I know some people want to be 20 to 30, but I want to give less odds of getting winded, seen. And not only that, if you already put that path 30 yards away, they'll feel more comfortable using it, especially these older deer that do recognize what tree stands are and what they look like and what they're used for because they've been shot at before. Is button up to the pines here, the pine trees. And I got another video out that I put out a couple months ago, 2-3 months ago, actually probably longer than that, with how I planned this all out from an aerial view and explained where everything's at. That will also give you a good idea or starting point on the planning and the preparation before you even start getting boots on the ground and doing things. Physically getting in and installing things. I'm not saying don't put boots on the ground first to understand your property, but to actually do the work, it's good to plan everything out through the air. So, walking in here a little bit, I don't know if we'll kick anything out, but you can see up top here, these pine trees. Having only pine trees and having, you know, acres and acres, like 100 acres, 200 acres of straight pines does not provide a lot of cover, doesn't provide a lot of food for deer. That's not what I have here. I have probably, just a rough estimate, maybe 5-acre strip in kind of pine trees, but it also mixed in with some other trees. I got oaks and other things in here as well, but this top part and this corner down here is for sure all pine trees. We'll bed in here, especially when it gets real cold during the winter, get more thermal cover. But deer are primarily going to come right up this path through here. This is what they use, and they cut into this food plot. I am actually planning on changing this path a little bit because the last thing I want to do is cut out right here, and I don't have big enough trees to have a good stand in over here. I will probably try to redirect them a little bit and establish a path that comes through somewhere in here, another 20-30 yards over. Actually, this almost looks like it could be, yeah, this is another path they use. So I'll probably more define and establish this path coming up. And if you can kind of see through the trees down there, that bottom side is another food plot of mine. And we'll go down there here shortly. But I'll be putting establishing a trail through the timber here, and then I'll be set up in probably one of those big pines back there, and then I'll have a licking branch or something in here to where they'll stop, hit that. This is, like I said, a staging area. They'll feel more comfortable coming in here, and then they'll work their way in the food plot. And I'm gonna be hunting this on a northwest wind. So northwest wind will be solid. You know what else that is? That's usually a cold front, and that's when deer are moving and they're looking for food. So Another reason why planning ahead of time makes sense, right? Use what use what Mother Nature gives you. Understand when deer are really moving. They're usually moving in cold fronts. They feel more comfortable, they can move longer without getting hot, and plus they need a food to start putting calories on. Quite a bit of information, I think, and we'll define all that information throughout a lot of other videos. We'll talk about the perfect tree stand setup, making sure you got back cover and all those other things that go into that. So you'll see more videos like that. You'll talk about more about deer strategy, probably show you how we're gonna clean the lane to try to get deer to start traveling those paths. Get you that information on Licking Branch, but I wanna move on so we can see the rest of the property and what's been done so far. So we're on the top of the property. We're gonna head down to the west side of the property and take a look at the food plots and the deer bedding down there. So stay tuned. I had to clear some trees out to get that 13-foot disc down here. It's a little bigger than I thought I was gonna pick up, but right price, right disc. Right down here, we're coming into my lower food plot area. Oh man, the one plot's coming up beautifully, the one I planted a couple weeks ago. So green and so lush. This is looking amazing down here. Is my lower food plot area. And this is where most of the acreage is and where most of the deer are gonna be most of the time. So I planted this field right behind me. You can kind of see the difference from what's over there, the trees are at, and this field here. Yeah, there's a lot of different little weeds in here, but overall, you can see the plant in here that looks a lot like corn coming up. And that is all milo, or sorghum, or whatever you want to call it. So milo is an excellent crop to plant that can also, that'll give deer food, high nutritious food when it starts getting really cold out, and it'll also give deer bedding. Now I wanted to plant this earlier, but I didn't really get a chance to. But I did get this in July before some good rain, and I get a lot more forgiveness down here in this area for planting if it gets really dry after those initial rains, because it doesn't take very long before that taproot gets deep enough to where it hits wet soil. You know what I mean? The water table is a lot higher in this area. This is an area that floods. So right here, this whole acre right here is all milo, maybe a little bit more than an acre. This will grow up, deer will bed in it, but they won't eat it until here in the season. Once all the corn, the beans, and everything else comes out of the fields, they'll come in and they'll be all over this food source. That is the huge benefit of it. I've planted corn down here one year when I was still I didn't own the property yet, and I just wasted a lot of money. There's so many raccoons down here, and that deer that came through here early. There was no corn by the time the deer season started. So if you have that type of problem, you have a higher deer population, or maybe there just isn't a lot of food, so all the animals will start wiping out whatever you got. The milo is an excellent option. There's no point in saying, oh, deer love corn more, deer love beans more. If there's no corn and beans, when you're hunting to bring them into that area, they're gonna go somewhere else. They will 100% be in here eating this, and this is gonna be a pile of food. You can just see how thick that is. So there'll be a pile of food for them. Now over here, this is the fall food plot we just planted. It is already greening up nicely. Deer will already be in here feeding on this. This is already, when it's sprouting like this, they'll come in and they'll start feeding on this. We planted this 2 weeks ago, maybe. Probably had some footage. We had to burn this. And when I talked about earlier about being a little concerned about burning when there's been a lot of pine trees nearby, it might have got a little concerning at one point, but we burnt this off nice and clean, and it's definitely coming up nice right in here. Got rye in here, radish, turnips, and winter peas is the mix that I put in here. This is gonna be the main food plot. I've shot 2 bucks out of this land already before I owned it. They weren't Boone and Crockett's, but they were definitely probably 130s or so, some big deer. I got them a little bit later in the rut, after I already passed on a lot of 3-year-olds. And it was one of those things where I'm hunting a lot of public, and it gets late in the season and you end up kind of taking whatever you can at that point, and you can't be too picky all the time. You got to go with what you got. And this was 26 acres of land, and I didn't have a lot of stuff here to keep the deer on this land, and the neighbors are going to probably be shooting everything, or at least the old neighbors would be shooting everything too. So but the moment you can start controlling things yourself a little bit more, it motivates you a little bit more to pass on deer, which I was already doing on the little bit of private I can hunt and public land. But I'm not gonna lie, it gets down to the end of the season and I see a buck that I've never seen before. It's in front of me that's 3-4 years old. I might take it, I'm human. Those guys that say they pass on everything, it's a lot easier to do when you have 300-400 acres of land, and you know or if your neighbors are on the same page as you are, and you know they'll be around. But either way, I've passed on a lot of deer in here, so it's not like I'm shooting every 3-year-old that walks by. And there's a lot of years where I didn't even take one deer out of here, so you do still got to manage it. So I'm not saying shoot all your 3-year-olds, not if you want to shoot a Boone and Crockett or something real big. Either way, I got kind of on a random tangent there. But so yeah, this is that north food plot. I shot 2 bucks down here, and one is in a stand over in those birch trees. So that whole line of trees over there is a birch trees, and deer like to cross in that far corner over there, and they bed on this whole tree line on this side all the way down. Tree line, weed line, and there's a creek on the other side, so the deer feel protected. So they love bedding on that whole creek line, and the deer also run that creek line. So I own the land on this side of the creek, and that solid tree line on that far north side, that's the north side of my property. And then I own about 4 or 5 acres on the other side, which is even swampier type land. They do use part of that for bedding, and then part of it's cattails. So a lot of swampy-ish wetland on that side that there's not really any hunting pressure because there's not really a good way to hunt it, which is nice. It makes my property play into something or seem like a lot bigger. So it could really multiply that 26 acres when you get some land that's very hard terrain that people don't like to go on. It can make your property a lot bigger. So I'm gonna think about if you're going to purchase land and how to utilize it. But I stay off the whole north side of the property, or at least the northwest side of the property. So everything on that side of the creek, everything past this Milo is all deer sanctuary. That tree line, deer sanctuary, yeah, I still got to come in here and I'm pretty close to it when I go to have to plant this. But it'll pull them right back in when they're looking for food. And then the Milo's the buffer, right? If I would have just planted this a whole in a winter blend, it would be just low to the ground and it wouldn't seem like as much cover. So then you're gonna have deer that are even moving farther away. But once this Milo grows up, the deer are gonna be using even more of this for bedding, and I'll be able to hold even more deer on the property. 2 biggest things. You need food on the property. If at all possible, the better food source, the longer you're gonna keep them around. And the other part is you need unpressured bedding. And hopefully the goal is to utilize it that way. I am gonna have one stand that I'll actually hunt on the northeast side of the property that I'll show you, that's on kind of close to the edge of the pond. The deer have to walk around that. The highest deer traffic is actually on this side, which is on the west side of the pond, where I also have that great licking branch over there that I get all the pictures of the big deer, but I can't hunt it. And the reason why I say I can't hunt it is I can't get in there without leaving my scent everywhere, walking across all kinds of deer paths and putting all kinds of pressure in that area. You start doing that too many times, all of a sudden the deer aren't on your property during daylight anymore. I kind of set a rule for myself, as tempting as it is, because that's where I see most of the big bucks at, and I see all the deer traffic, and you feel like you're guaranteed to see something over there, you're gonna screw up the other part of your property, and you're gonna push deer off your property. So you need self-control, and you need a well thought out plan when you do this. You need to have unbothered deer bedding. Spit out a whole lot of information, and so hopefully that's all helpful. We're not gonna walk this whole entire thing today. I'll probably give you one more thing. We'll walk over here to this corner and I'll show you a few stands just to give you some stand information for setting up tree stands, because this is the time right now that you should be out putting tree stands up. You do not want to be doing it in late September. You want deer to get used to those tree stands ahead of time. So let's go over here. I'll show you some tree stands and at least give you a general idea what to think about. I'm not going to go in like high detail, but I'll at least give you enough to get started. All right, here's the first stand. And this one will probably get moved because I'm probably going to change the angle on it. And as I said before, I'm going to create a path from this lower food plot up to the higher food plot. And so I'm probably going to reposition this tree stand in the long run. I don't know if you can even see it. A little bit. That's a good sign. You don't want to be out in the open. It is a good, 15 yards into the timber, up next to the tree. Look at the back cover behind it. You know what I mean? That's what you're looking for. Well, I didn't do any tree stand safety checks yet, but I don't know if you can see that from far away, but as the trees grow, your ladder stands will disconnect if you don't have pins in them. And I did not put pins in this one, obviously. But this is why you go check your tree stands out before you come back to them to hunt. But the most important point, back cover, and you don't want deer coming downwind of you. Now, I don't really like the angle of this for the most part. I can hunt this one on a west wind. It's in the corner of the food plot on the edge, and deer also like edges. There's a good chance they would walk this tree line right down through here and present a shot. And as you can see, I don't cut all the trees down in front of the whole entire stand. I just cut clearings, enough to get an arrow through and enough to time it out and move a little bit without losing the deer behind another tree. Because your number one goal, even before shooting a deer, is not getting busted. If you're getting busted, you're applying pressure to the property and you're less likely to see anything good. Right here, remember what kind of trees are all through here? Oak tree. So I got oak trees growing all along the edges of this bottom area, all the way up past the white truck there. I gotta mark all these oak trees because during the winter I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna girdle a lot of the trees around it to let the oak trees thrive more. Just providing more of that ideal food source on the property, using what I got. These oak trees were already here. Definitely look like white oaks to me, which is one of the more palatable oak trees. They produce a more palatable acorn, I should say. And, there's a lot of them down here. So I will probably kill off a few of these birch trees just around where these oak trees are. And then over on that side, there's just pine trees and junk trees, so I have no problem girdling the trees around the white oaks over there. Not a bad setup, right? There isn't a lot of trees behind here. So right now, the backdrop on this is great for this tree stand. Come late, once you get into November and all the leaves start dropping, when there's no leaves behind me anymore, this is not a good stand to be sitting in. So this would be a good early stand. This food plot will be up. They'll be checking licking branches and so forth. And you can see this tree that I left right here. My plan is to hang a licking branch down from the farther side of this tree. So it'll be more out here, and trim some of these branches away and put a scrape right here. We'll come out of there, come right here, and they'll hit this scrape. When we burnt this off, you can see a little burn mark on that tree. I don't know if this thing's gonna survive or not. Looks a little rough. I'm hoping it does because I'd love to have this continue to grow and just have a perfect, this is a little closer than what I normally want them, but 20-yard shot. Right by on a licking branch right here would be just excellent. So when you're thinking about strategy, think about that. Corner of the food plot, deer-like edges, they come out, hit that licking branch, stop right there, present a shot. Not only that, it's fun to watch all the other deer that hit that licking branch in front of you too. There you are, you got your backdrop. It's not easy to see you right now in that early hunting season. Some things to think about there. I want to take you back in here. I shot another buck back in here. This is technically bedding for the deer. Not something I would hunt very often. It's on the south side of the property, far south edge of the property. Wouldn't want to go in here and hunt this all the time. This would be something with the right exact situation. Maybe I'd come back in here and hunt this For example, the day that I shot a buck in here, it was raining all morning. It was during the rut when bucks would be cruising. I came in here, walked in the rain. This grass was all knocked down a little bit by that point in time. And the rain washed my scent away. This is definitely growing out a little bit. I'll turn this around so you can see where I'm going. Right in here, deer cruise this and they bed in here, right along this creek line. We'll walk up here and I keep talking about this creek line, so I'll actually show you the creek. See which way I want to go here. Try not to fall in. All right, so you can see a pretty solid creek, really deep right by my property here. And the deer get real comfortable bedding right along this. Now I'm not gonna lie, there's probably less of them bedding in here because I have had the tractor down here and been tilling up the ground and applying more pressure than what I was in the past. That'll make a huge difference, right? When you have 20, 30 something acres, maybe even up to 50, what you do on that land will make a difference. And some deer will not like that pressure and they won't stay on it if you're down there all the time. That's why if you have 150, 200, like, the world's yours. And sometimes you can get away with a lot more. Right here, going back to talking about tree stands. This one's in the far back corner. This is gonna be the most pressure from me going into a tree stand out of all my tree stands. It'll be to get anything that's cruising through here, but I'd be walking in on the rain and have it planned out with weather to get my scent back out of here if I did come in here. But here's the tree stand. It's on a huge tree, multi-limb tree. The creek is right behind it. I cut a little bit out on the side there. I could even shoot across the tree if the deer come walking through on that edge over there. But look at the backdrop. Look at all these big limbs in here. And it's up there. I put a whole nother, I don't even know, 6, 8, probably 6 feet on top of the original ladder stand to make it taller in the tree there. Nothing comes through here and just looks up that high. And with the way it's blended in with the limbs and everything, it's definitely a solid setup. The problem isn't where you're at in the tree stand and what it looks like. It's the access. And that is probably the most important thing that you got to think of. Now, I have thought about taking one of these really large trees, be that one, I don't know, that'd be pretty sketch. That big one would be real nice. And dropping it across the creek. And then kind of nailing on boards. And there is a path, it's kind of like a utility road that goes all the way to the train tracks on the far end down there, like miles down. And thought about getting an e-bike and riding an e-bike over there and then walking across this homemade bridge and then stepping over a good 10 feet into my tree stand. And I thought that'd be a pretty slick way of doing it, but I don't know. If I do that, I'll get that on video because that'll be interesting, and that frickin' tree is ginormous. But the buck I shot the one year came cruising through here. I think it was 2024 when I shot that buck. And I had seriously 10 seconds from the time I saw him to grab my bow, pull the bow back, and put a kill shot on it. And I shot him somewhere right in here, and then he cut out into my field and actually ran a lot farther than I thought through the long grass and stuff in the field over there. And I got my hunting dog Callie out here, and she tracked it down for me and did her job, because Callie is like a must when you're trying to track deer in tall grassy fields. But yeah, that's another tree stand. You can see back cover is excellent. The only thing that's not excellent, I'd say, is again the pressure you're putting in here. But I'm coming right from the edge of a food plot, walking very into the edge of their bedding area, and you know, rain, wet ground, something to cover the noise. Whatever you can do, make sure if you are gonna apply pressure and go in deeper into a bedding area, make sure that you have a plan and there's more to it than just walking in there because you feel like hunting that stand that day. This is also a good stand to hunt on an east wind where it blows your scent across the creek. I would not hunt this on any other wind direction. Here's a scrape in a licking branch. And this is another one that I put up where it's kind of exposed, right? It's in the middle going across two trees. I will tell you, they do use this one, and they do use the other ones. or it did in the past when I actually got them started. This one definitely gets used over back in here in the bedding area, but it's not used as much as if you would connect it off a branch that comes out farther, where it looks like it's more of part of the tree and it's not kind of just dangling in the middle. Just thought I'd give you guys a quick view from one side of my property to the other. Food plot, that fall plot, a little plot, and then undisturbed bedding area, all the way over to that far tree line, probably 30 yards in. And we're gonna go, that's where we're gonna go next. We're gonna go to that far tree line by the pond and check that out. All right, here's one of the paths on the north side of the property here. The path on this side of the creek is not very far away from some of the buildings on the property. There's a little shop. I sprayed this path with glyphosate earlier. I got a pull behind sprayer on the four-wheeler, same way I sprayed the fields, but definitely helps keep your paths clear of overgrown. I used to be able to get a truck through here, but as you can see, there's a giant tree come down and it's still working its way lower and lower, so at some point I'll have to come in here and cut it all down and claim my trail all the way back again. As of right now, it just adds a little bit more of a barrier where maybe deer feel more comfortable cruising through here with the building so close by. Coming up on the creek, I'm gonna get eaten alive by mosquitoes in here in no time too. Or not the creek, sorry. Coming up on the pond. So you got the pond right here. And this used to be holy cow, this used to be a solid trail going this way on that side of the pond as well. And as you can see, some storms got the best of that tree. And the tree looks a little sketch. I'll have to get in here with the chainsaw and I will have to clear that tree out. I do want deer to be able to travel east and west on this, because what happens here is deer will either cut onto my property from up this direction. There's tons of other floodland, also cornfields, and you name it. This is a solid path that they use to go through here if they want to travel into the pines and stuff on my property. They'll travel down this and run that whole pine timber if they want to go on this side of the pond. And then that other path on the other side of the pond, which I'm gonna try to get back there. This looks a little rough. That is highly used. And I guarantee when we walk in here on the other side of this tree, there's deer bedding right in here. And that is something I'm gonna have to make a decision on, because deer will come and they'll hit this just right in here and they'll rub on them. Ultimately, I do plan on putting a licking branch in here and then having a tree stand right up in here where I walk right off the path, and then the shop's up in the background. As you maybe see through the trees, but we're not far away from it. We're maybe like 70 yards from the shop right here. So maybe 30 yards into the timber, get myself set up a tree stand in here, barely even walking in off away from the buildings, not walking far into the property at all, putting a licking branch. Deer are forced to either go to this side or that side, and if I clear this out, they'll actually hit that scrape and then they'll come over and check this scrape. They love this side over by the pond. Again, it's usually it's like not pressured. So yeah, I have to make a decision if I want to leave that there as more of a barrier and make them feel more comfortable and maybe they bed over here and create more bedding, or do I want to take that down to allow them to flow back and forth and come over here and allow me to hunt this side of the property and get a better chance of getting a shot on a deer, because I'm not hunting over there. I'd love to, because most of the deer are over there and I see most of the deer. But this is a spot where I can hunt the north side and get some cruising traffic through here. All those food plot stands that I have over there, those are all gonna be night stands. It's high risk usually, well, unless I pattern deer differently, but it's high risk a lot of times to try to hunt a food plot in the morning, because the deer are usually already in there and you're gonna end up getting busted going in. You're better off going to hunt the food plots at night, which basically makes almost all those stands over there night stands. This would be like one of my only morning stands on this property. There's gonna be a stand here, no doubt about it. It's gonna be on this trail let's walk in here. We're gonna do some discovery. You're gonna do it with me. We're gonna try to make a decision. I'm indecisive, so I might even be thinking about it for a while, but we're at least gonna see what we're dealing with here. Hopefully not have a tree come down on us. Yeah, normally this is a nice maintained path all the way through here. It is overgrown with all the limbs down. I wasn't able to spray it either. I don't get clobbered by this tree. One of those widow makers. But you can see why the deer like it. Look at this. Nice pond. Again, they can bed up next to the pond and only have to worry about people coming from one direction. So they feel more safe, secure. They can do the same on the other side. You got that tree barrier there. You can kind of see the deer trail. This right here. Look at that rub. They've just pounded this tree every single year. Big buck rub. So many rubs and scrapes on this side of the property. The bucks just like to cruise this. Out around this pond. Some bedding in there. Right there. It's actually an old tripod stand from one of the buddies that used to hunt this with me before he moved over to Iowa, the glory land. Don't get me wrong, there's good hunting over in Illinois here too. Originally from Iowa, I had to give up some pretty good hunting land to come over here. Pretty good private land. And that is honestly when I had to really learn how to become a better bow hunter and evolve, because I had lots of access to private property, big farms, 300, 400, 500 acre farms. And then I came over here and had nothing besides public. It is a different world when you're trying to harvest bucks on public land. Can you shoot deer? Yes. But mature bucks, totally different story. Boy, this is thick. I haven't been on this side of the property all year, so again, I stay out of it. We're gonna find out if my awesome licking branch is still standing. All right. So this is a better example. Still, you know what I mean, you can do better depending on your setup. But right here is the licking branch and scrape. And this is early August still, so everything's growing up higher. They haven't really pounded it yet. This branch right here with the leaves coming out. Now, a lot of this branch actually kind of died, but this was also alive last year, but at least it looks like it continues. It's a continuation of this. It's not just a random branch just hanging in the air. Whatever you do, don't touch the end of this and put your scent on it, right? There's years of deer scent on that. Here's a scrape. I pee on them sometimes. They don't mind it. It blends in. A few rainfalls or whatever, they just feel like it's being used. They don't tell the difference between a human or not, so you can pee on that. I wouldn't do it in the rut, and I wouldn't do it if they already have it established and been consistently using it for that year, but the first time out when I'm messing around with things, a lot of times I will. I honestly wish I had a trail camera with me. I would have set it up today. So, good looking branch, right? If this was growing out even a little bit more, coming across those leaves there, be even better. If this was a giant limb coming all the way out, let's say that big limb, and the trail was right underneath it, tying it straight off to the limb would be even better. I couldn't do that. I wanted to keep it over the main trail because this does get beaten down. This deer cruise this way, and then deer come in from that way up to here, and they go around the pond. This is the pond edge. So it is a natural funnel. You got to use what your property gives you. If you can set up a stand in the funnel where the deer have to funnel through, and you can get to that stand without pushing a bunch of deer off your property and getting busted all the time because you have good access, that is a spot to set up. And obviously food's a good source, but a funnel is an excellent source. If you hunt public ground, you definitely better know that. Find your funnels, find where the deer are crossing through, what's pushing them that way, and that's where you want to be. I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna pee in that. I gotta pee anyway, so I'll pee in that. I think this thing will take off either way, but it's been stomped down really good. I don't know if they've used it lately, but they will start using it for sure. Get them coming in through here again, and then we'll establish one over there later. But use your funnels. You got water on your land, you got a creek crossing that's easier to cross through, that'll create a funnel. You got rock ledges, steep terrain, all create good funnels. This is getting to the west side of my property here. I might be able to get a view from across the creek here, so I'll walk up here a little farther, but there's the pond. You can already see the deer path up here that they use. So they walk down this whole line, walk all the way down this tree line next to the creek. Come November, this will all be pushed down. Here we go, look at this path into the creek here. Can't tell me they aren't using that. I guess you really can't see it, but it's a little higher ground, but right on the other side of this, I got 4 acres on the other, it's just grassland. One thing I did over there, and I'll show you on a different video, is that grass starts to lay down in November, and it's no longer really usable for deer bedding. And I started planting red osier in March, clippings. We also sell the clippings, so if you want to buy red osier clippings, you got to clip them in the winter basically, so they'd be sent to your house, you know, March, April or whatever, but they love wet area, love eating on them. It's like deer candy, just another great food source and great cover. And those will grow up and just be some additional cover that will stay standing. I think I planted about 50 or 60, and I plan on getting, I want to put about another 100 in over on the other side and really make it nice and thick and create some good deer bedding over there that'll stick around once it gets cold and the grass lays flat. Yep, this is the north part of the creek. I guess there is one thing I didn't talk about. I talked about, you know, this being the deer oasis and deer bedding and so forth. As you can see, you can still see it crossed it fairly well. I do plan on putting different bush-like trees or different types of bushes in this area in lines to kind of break it up, just to hopefully hold more deer. Whitetails do not like to be on top of each other. Does will handle pressure. Does, even when they're they have a fawn or they're gonna go into labor or whatever, they don't want to be right next to another doe. They don't want to see one. So this is gonna get broken up. I plan on planting a lot of hazelnut and different type of bush trees that also provide an excellent food source in here to break this all up, to make sure as the year goes on, you can't see all the way across this. Definitely when it becomes winter time or fall, when everything starts dropping, you still can't see all the way across this. Otherwise, deer will clear out, they will not bed in here, and you will not hold deer in this area, and it's not well utilized. Very important piece that I almost forgot to even talk about. And it's honestly something that I probably am not gonna have time to do this year with everything else going on. It is the point in time where I need to make sure tree stands are ready to go, and some other ins and outs for deer season. Next year, next spring, there'll be a lot of time spent in here planting hazelnut bushes and all kinds of other berry bushes and so forth, that dogwood. Kind of like the same thing that I talked about across the creek, planting dogwood, but that'd be more red osier just so it survives the flood stages. But that's gonna go in here, and the bedding area is what's gonna get developed next. So going back to the closing, all about developing the land, bigger bucks on your land, giving you a chance to harvest that big booner deer or the biggest one possible in that area with your genetics. Run them into that area. That's what we're all about here, talking about the strategy behind it. So please hit that thumbs up button, give me a like if you like this content, and we'll continue to put more out. Thanks.